We thought you were alone.
I am. May God be with you.
And also with you.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
The tax collectors and the sinners were all gathered around Jesus to listen to his preaching, at which the Pharisees and the religious scholars murmured, "This person welcomes sinners and eats with them." Then Jesus addressed this parable to them. A man had 2 children. The younger of them said to his father,
"Give me the share of the estate."
So the father divided up the property between them. Some days later, the younger son gathered up his belongings and went off to a distant land. Here, he squandered all his money on loose liquor. After everything was spent, a great famine broke over the land, and the son was in great need. So he went to a landowner who sent him to a farm to take care of the pigs. He was so hungry that he could have eaten the husks that were fodder for those pigs, but no one made a move to give him anything. Coming to his senses at last, he said,
"How many hired hands at my father's house have more than enough to eat, while here I am starving? I will quit and go back home and say, I have sinned against God and against you. I no longer deserve to be called one of your children. Treat me like one of your hired hands."
And with that, the younger son set off for his home. While still a long way off, the father caught sight of the returning child and was deeply moved. The father ran out to meet him, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. And the son said to him,
"I have sinned against God and against you. I no longer deserve to be called one of your children."
But his father said to one of the workers, "Quick, bring out the finest robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and shoes on his feet. Take the calf we have been fattening and butchering. Let us eat and celebrate. The son of mine was dead, but has now come back to life. He was lost, but is now found." Meanwhile, the elder son, who had been out in the field, as he neared the house, he heard the sound of music and dancing. He called one of the workers and asked,
"What is happening?"
The worker answered, "Your brother is home, and the fatted calf has been killed because your father has him back safe and sound." The son got angry at this and refused to go into the party. But his father came out and pleaded with him. He said in reply,
"Look, for years now, I have done every single thing you asked me to do. I never disobeyed even one of your orders. You never gave me so much as a kid goat to celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours comes home, after going through your money with prostitutes, you kill the fatted calf for him."
"But my child, you are with me always, and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate and to rejoice. This brother of yours was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, and now he is found." The good news of salvation. Please be seated. Now I'm going to talk for half an hour. I'm not. Somebody might do that, but not me. It is very often said of this gospel story, the parable of the prodigal son, that it is completely misnamed, that it has the wrong title, that it should, in fact, be called the parable of the forgiving father instead of the prodigal son. Now, there's a lot of merit to this position, especially since most of us don't even know what the word prodigal means. And even if we did, we probably wouldn't even use it right in a sentence. It is simply one of those words in the English language that we just hardly ever use anymore. Another reason why there is merit to the position that the story be called the forgiving father rather than the prodigal son is that the point of this story, as Jesus told it, seems to have more to do with the attitude of the father than it does with the behavior of the son. So if we read this story over again on our own and try to picture in our mind's eye the action taking place, the image of the father becomes the central and the dominant figure in the story. The so-called prodigal son is passive, but the prodigal son's father is active. He is dynamic. It is he who catches sight of the son, like someone anxiously anticipating a loved one's return. It is he who is deeply moved before even hearing the son's confession, and in fact, isn't even concerned about it. It is the father who runs toward the son and who throws his arms around his neck, kissing him. And it is the father who decides to throw a party and who again goes out to plead with his other son to join in the celebration and to understand and to forgive. This is quite a father, the father of the prodigal son. This father whom Jesus tells us a story of today. It is the story of a father Jesus knows, whom Jesus knows very well. It is the story of the Father of Jesus, and therefore the story of the Father of us all. It is the story of God, the personal story of God, told to us personally by God's child, by God's Son. It is the story of a God who is on the watch for us, hoping to catch our eye. A God who is deeply moved by all the sufferings we endure in our lives, and who hopes that despite these sufferings, and maybe even because of them, we will still know that God is there waiting and watching for us. This is a story of a God who not only runs out to greet us when he sees us wandering in his direction, but who sends his son out to ensure that we make it back to God, even at the expense of Jesus' own human life. This is the story, then, of a God who loves us so much that, like Abraham and Isaac of old, he would sacrifice his only son. So great is his love. And Jesus is sent out to meet us anywhere we are, in any place, and in every situation, no matter what our age, our race, nationality, gender, marital status, or sexual orientation. No matter what our creed, our wealth, or our poverty. No matter what our disease, our health, our addiction, despair, or loss, or our loss. Jesus is there to meet us in all of those human spaces and to lead us in his company home to a God before whom we unabashedly admit our dependency. We have no need to fear this God. This God that Jesus tells us the story of today. This story with the mixed up title. This story which really should be called neither the prodigal son, nor really even the forgiving father. For the word prodigal literally means recklessly extravagant. So it's the father who is prodigal here. This is the story of the prodigal father, the prodigal God. For our God is indeed recklessly extravagant. God is recklessly extravagant with pure, everlasting love. Amen.